Welcome back to MMA Alchemy with J-Pic. Today's going to be a special episode. I have Jim Gries coming in from Arizona. Good friend of mine, works for MMA Weekly, also works with ESPN Radio, and he's been covering the sport of MMA for 30 plus years. We're talking about UFC 1 and up. So, Jim, thank you so much for joining us here on MMA Alchemy, episode 2. And we were just going to talk a little bit about Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev, which I know the whole world is talking about right now, coming from the land down under, Perth, Australia. What is your take on that fight, the 5-round banger coming from Australia?
Oh, man, I was live during the whole thing, Jeff. It's good to see you starting a podcast, by the way, man. And, you grew up with my little brother, and you guys played sports against each other, and we kind of connected later on through our love for mixed martial arts, and that to me, it's a bond that once you're in that group and you have that bond, and if you know, you know. I mean, if you've never trained, if you've never been in a gym, if you've never been a part of a fight team or around a group like that, then you really don't know. But if you have, then you know it's like a fraternity, a brotherhood, sisterhood, family, whatever you want to call it. So it's good to see you keeping it going. But that fight was, I thought, look, you've seen fights that had more highlights, right? Like Hendo and Shogun, for example. You've seen fights that have gone the distance and have just been firefights, action the whole way. We've seen those. This wasn't that fight. This was a great fight. It had action all the way through, but it wasn't one of those highlight reel, each guy taking a ton of damage, bomb after bomb after bomb. But this was MMA savants, 2 of them. This was mixed martial artists at their best. This was 2 guys in there, Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev, 2 guys who are at the very peak of their athletic abilities and the very top of the sport, right? So we saw the best of the best, and not only athletically, not only within the disciplines, but in terms of putting it all together, finding out and figuring out a way to win. These 2 guys are the best of the best. It doesn't get any better than these 2 fighters. So to watch them go back and forth for 25 minutes in that chess match, in that war, and to me, that's what it was. I had said going in, the odds were ridiculous. Just throw them out. That's the odds maker's way to control the money. There was no way Alexander Volkanovski was that big of a dog in his own mind or in people who really know the fight game's minds. It just wasn't there. So Alexander Volkanovski, you knew was going to make a great fight of it. If you really know what you're doing, you knew it was probably going to go over that 3.5 round magic number. And I thought it would go the distance. I thought Volkanovski would win, Jeff. It was this close. But I want to say one thing. Being a judge of a fight is almost impossible. I'm not here to make excuses for him, but they have 3 different vantage points. They don't have monitors. Half of what you see is obstructed by body parts, posts, cages, fence. It's one of the hardest things. I've been a play-by-play announcer for a lot of years. The hardest sport to do is MMA because of the cage, because of your vantage point, because of the obstruction. I have to keep my eyes glued on the monitor, which is what John Anik does, and even when Dana White's watching the fights, you're watching the monitor. Why? Because that's what the fans are seeing. The judges don't have that benefit. So for that being said, I thought, and I'm not one to sit here and give scores, but it was that close. So to me, the 48-47's right in line. Whether it was Volk, whether it was Islam, you really can't argue, man. It was that close. You could make an argument the way the criteria is set up, the judges being human beings. It is what it is, man. You have to just be happy that you saw an incredible fight, and you have to hope that the UFC, from Dana and Hunter right on down to Sean and Mick, you have to hope that they realize what we saw in that octagon is special, that it's very rare to see 2 athletes like that, and also that they need to run this rematch back right now. Never mind Dominic. Let him fight Oliveira. Poirier is the only one without a fight in that division. Never mind Yair Rodriguez. There should have never been an interim title fight anyway. And if there was one, there shouldn't have been one between Rodriguez and Emmett when Holloway and Arnold Allen are out there. These interim title fights are ridiculous. Now they're stuck trying to put Volkanovski back out there against Yair. But it has to be. There is no other fight right now in the lightweight division. There is no other fight in the featherweight division. There is no other fight, period, between these 2 guys or anything that they could do besides rematch one another. That's what has to be done right now.
Now, Jim, we're breaking down the fight science together, and we've talked many times on the phone. And the MMA Alchemist, he was watching, okay? He was watching this fight. And he was watching Volkanovski, as he smiled at Islam when he laid in his arms, right? Have you ever seen anything like that? Islam, when he's on someone's back, he is choking you out and finishing the fight in 1.2 seconds. Everybody we've seen him fight, once he's on your back, is tapping out immediately. But when the MMA Alchemist was watching this fight, he noticed Volkanovski was looking up and smiling and laughing, and he was punching backwards and yelling and screaming. What did you think about that display in the ring on Saturday night?
I think it's a guy who knows how good he is, knows how great he is, and he was in there having fun. That's a guy who loves what he does, and that's also a guy you don't want to fuck with. I mean, seriously. No. He's laughing when he's got a killer on his back. And I thought the cool thing about Volk, he's laughing, he's having fun, he's getting the crowd going. He's throwing them shots. They need to learn how to rescore this sport, because that fourth round, he did a lot of damage. Now, you're looking at the position, and yes, Islam had control, if you want to call it that, but you call him stubborn because he was getting punched, and Volk landed a lot of shots. So I thought Volk had the second and the fifth, and the second, third, and the fifth, and the second was like that. So if you scored it for Islam, cool, then he wins. But there has to be a rematch. And whenever you have two fighters who are that evenly matched, Volkanovski said, and he admitted that he might have respected Islam striking a little bit too much. In a rematch, he wouldn't do that. Might take some more chances in the fight, especially early on when he didn't have to feel him out. Because remember, you start to believe the hype, and you don't know how great this guy is or not. But I said the fight, like Charles Barkley always says, right, in the NBA playoffs, the series doesn't begin until both road teams win, right? Well, the same thing.
Oh, I love it.
Fights, right? You don't really get into a fight until you feel your opponent's strength. When Islam took him down and he felt that heavy strength keeping him down and trying to, the ground and pound and work for submissions. Once Volk felt that, and then once Islam felt Volk's power, and remember one thing, the thing that matters most, and Nate Diaz will tell you if you forget, how did the fight end? I'm big on that, man. When one guy's on his ass getting pounded out, and if the fight's another 30 seconds long, he might be finished, that matters. That means something. And Volk did win that round no matter what, but I'll tell you what, man, it doesn't even matter because they didn't switch spots on the pound for pound. Volk didn't lose anything. He made a ton of money.
Correct.
He showed up. He lost nothing in this fight. He might have his first loss in 10 years, but he lost nothing in his career, his momentum. He didn't take a lot of damage. A lot of people that happens, and he could do what Izzy did, go right back down and dominate. But I think he wants to stay at lightweight. I think this gives him confidence. He's seen Oliveira smash all those other guys and choke him out, and he has seen what Islam did to him, and he's got to be thinking like, I'm the best lightweight in the world, and I'm staying here. And you guys are going to deal with me, and I'm a problem. I'll give up the damn belt at featherweight. There's nothing for him down there, and that includes Yair Rodriguez. I love Yair, but that's facts.
So I absolutely agree with you. And Joe Rogan has come out and spoke about, the decision. He thought that, was the wrong decision. And I think
did you see the replay of their live watch party with Eddie Bravo and the fighter and the kid?
I did not see that. I followed it.
Robbed. And they're like, Volk's winning. They're counting down, Volk. And they're, holy shit, no way, But that's the thing. You can get biased when you're watching a fight, right? When you're listening to commentary or even when you're not and you're focusing on one fighter and it might be the fighter. It's easy to become biased in a fight and think a fighter won when he or she didn't. I've done that a few times, man. And then you go back and watch. What the hell was
you got to really, understand the rules. The control, the punches, kicks, ground